If you've mastered basic strategy, counting, and deviations, but you're not sure exactly what you should bet, the reality is you're not going to make it as a card counter. In this video, I'm going to talk about betting, how important it is, the best advice I ever received, and how to figure out exactly what you should bet. I'm Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I'm going to talk about betting. So I've met people that are perfect card counters, but when it comes to their betting, they just kind of wing it. I mean, it's not that difficult, right? Bet less when the casino has the advantage, bet more when you have the advantage. But unfortunately, it's not that simple. There are risks to both underbetting and overbetting, and I'm going to cover those right now. First, let's talk about overbetting. There are two times when I see people do this. The first is when they're overestimating their advantage. So this is when they've got, let's say, a true 10, and they're thinking, I got a true 10, and they put their entire stack of chips out there. But you have to understand a true 10 is really only a 4.5% advantage. And that's great, but it's no guarantee you're going to win that hand or even that shoe with a high true count. And so if you put too much money out there, you are risking more proportionately than you can afford to. The second time I see this happen is when someone's losing and they're chasing their money and they're thinking, I've got to get my money back, so they're betting more trying to get their money back. When people are chasing their money, I say they're looking at card counting as a sprint, not a marathon. But card counting is a marathon where you're not trying to win any given hand or shoe or night. You're being a disciplined investor that plays in a way where they're going to win over the long haul. And if you overbet in the short term, you're trying to win tonight, and that could jeopardize your entire bankroll. I tell people that a card counter has two assets, their brains and their bankroll. And if you overexpose your bankroll, the problem is your risk is going to skyrocket. And if you continue to overbet, I guarantee you will hit a streak where you're going to wipe out your bankroll. So you cannot overbet. You have to bet according to your risk tolerance and your bankroll size. So let's talk about underbetting. And one of the reasons why I see people underbet is because they're afraid of heat. You know, maybe they're afraid they're going to get backed off. And so when their bet spread says they should be betting $200, they only put out $100. Or when their bet spread says to put out $100, they only put out $50. Another time you might be underbetting is if you're winning and you don't want to lose this money you just won. So even though it says to put out $100 out, you don't want to lose 100, so you just put out 50. The problem with underbetting is that it's very likely you're not even playing a winning game. If you're not betting enough, then you're playing a break-even game or maybe even a losing game. And if you're going to play a losing game, you might as well just stay home. I know what some people are thinking, which is, Colin, just tell me how to bet. But unfortunately, I can't do that for a couple of reasons. One is even though implementing a bet spread isn't very difficult, if you've mastered every other part, just using your bet spread isn't very difficult. But knowing exactly what it should be is a little more complex because it involves the number of decks you're playing, the rules of the game, your bankroll size, deck penetration, your risk tolerance. There are a lot of factors that come into it. And so I can't just say bet like this. Some people say, oh, use a 1-to-8 spread or a 1-to-12. It's not that simple. It depends how much money you want to get out of casinos, how much risk you can handle, your bankroll size, all these factors. So how can you figure out how you should bet with your bankroll size, the games you're going to play, and your goals? Well, there's a few different ways. If you're a member of our site, we have a bankroll management app. It's really easy to use, and I would say for 90 to 95% of card counters, it's going to be all that you need. And so you enter in your bankroll size, the rules of the game you're going to play, and it'll give you some different options, and you choose the one that fits your goals and your risk tolerance. Another option that is going to be for someone that is professional, the 5 or 10% of people that need something more, is CVCX. It's a Windows-based software, so that can be a little bit difficult if you don't use a Windows computer, and it can be pretty confusing to figure out how to use, but it is really powerful. It has a lot of options. You can even run your own simulations. I use it to help people with more advanced stuff, and so that's an option for you. Some people that are members of our site also choose to do custom bankroll coaching where I will help you figure out exactly the bet spread you should use. That's a little bit higher priced, but that's an option too. And if you're just in the beginning stages and just starting to learn how to master card counting, just choose something simple like a 1-to-8 bet spread or a 1-to-12 bet spread and get really good at it. But at some point, you're going to need to know what you should bet for your risk tolerance to protect your bankroll, what you should bet to maximize your EV at the tables, and to reach your goals as far as heat and tolerance, longevity, all those things. If you are a member of Blackjack Apprenticeship, I also have recorded a tutorial both for CVCX and for our bankroll management web app. So you can watch this CVCX tutorial so you can understand exactly how a professional uses it to figure out their bet spreads, and for the bankroll management web app, exactly how to use it, how I would use it to figure out my bet spreads if I was going to Vegas or anywhere in the country. So the best advice I ever received was from my hero, and he's now become a friend, Tommy Highland. And what he said is when he was running teams that they were not necessarily the smartest card counters, but they made up for a lot by having very aggressive bet spreads. What does aggressive mean? It doesn't mean overbetting. What it means is a very large bet spread from what they're betting when the casino has an advantage to what they're betting when they have the advantage. So maybe this is going from $5 all the way up to $200 or two spots at $200. That they use very aggressive bet spreads because that keeps risk low and your EV high. You're not overbetting and risking too much money, nor are you underbetting and risking not having a winning game. I know some people are thinking, but then I'm going to look like a card counter and get backed off. And that might be the case. But if you want to get money, you want to learn how to bet this way. And there actually are some very creative ways to avoid this. I'm not willing to share it on YouTube, but there are some creative ways to bet we talk about at our boot camps, and there are discussions in our forum. But again, I'm not going to put it on a public format. But in general, the default way for a card counter to make money is to know their risk and have an aggressive bet spread. So whatever you decide, don't guess at this stuff. When I first started counting cards, I made up my own bet spread based on what I thought I understood from Professional Blackjack by Stanford Wong. And it turns out when I talked to some smarter card counters, I had insane risk. I really just got lucky that I didn't get wiped out. And I'm so thankful that those card counters pointed me to the resources to really manage my risk and my bankroll size. So be smart, master card counting, figure out what your bet spread should be to manage your bankroll size and your risk, and make sure you end up with the casino's money.